Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hear Queer, a space where we listen, unlearn, reflect, and have conversations that often do not find enough room in our everyday lives. Today, I am incredibly excited to be joined by Aili, intimacy coach and founder of the Intimacy Curator, an organization that promotes emotional and physical well being through self awareness, deeper connection, and conversations around intimacy. In a society where conversations around intimacy are often reduced to silence, stigma, or misinformation, Ailey's work invites us to slow down and ask deeper questions. What does intimacy actually mean? How do we communicate our needs and desires? How do we build healthier relationships with our bodies, our emotions, and the people around us? And perhaps most importantly, how do we move towards connection with honesty, consent, and self awareness? As queer individuals and communities, many of us have had to navigate relationships, desire, identity, and belonging outside conventional frameworks. This makes conversations around intimacy not just relevant, but essential. So today, we are going to explore intimacy beyond stereotypes and assumptions. We will talk about connection, communication, vulnerability, pleasure, healing, and the ways in which understanding intimacy can help us better understand ourselves. Aili, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and to learning from your experiences and insights. A very warm welcome to Hear Queer. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling loved.
You are feeling loved. Okay.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great but chaotic. There's too many things are going all at once. So I'm kind of living in a parallel world of too many things on my plate. But otherwise, you know, uh, today's conversation is more about you and less about me. So, to begin the conversation, I would really love if you can briefly explain about your journey of who you are today and kind of that experience of where you are from, how did you discover yourself, and your passion for working as an intimacy coach.
Okay, so fine. So my name is Aili. I am half Finnish, half Italian. I'm 52. I'm queer. I am asexual. I'm amorous. Whenever I'm sexual, I'm pan. And these are like my little labels, but I came to India about 20 years ago. In fact, like the first time I came was in 2000, so 26 years ago. Grew up in a very religious sort of household between Protestants and Catholics. So a lot of strict rules, very patriarchal between Finland and Italy. And then moved to UK, kind of ran away in my teens. There I had my first queer experiences, as most people do in London. Even my kinky experiences happened there. And then I landed up in India, kind of through philosophy, meditation, culture, studied Hindi, learned about history. It was a great journey, loved Bollywood. And then I ended up being a sort of sex intimacy relationship dating coach. How that happened was I used to work for a brand strategy agency. And while working for brand strategy, I kind of was working with all the dating apps. Like back then, it was just Tinder. Then others followed, and we had research projects where um, uh, I was trying to kind of understand what dating feels like in India to people in different cities and towns. And talking to young people, slightly older people, like millennials, about sex, dating, relationships, I kind of figured that this is something that I'm really interested in. And that's when I re-educated myself and started the Intimacy Curator, which is a company, a coaching, intimacy coaching company offering experiences, workshops, and one-on-one coaching. So this is my journey.
Wow, I mean, coming from a different culture and the whole baggage of, the religion part of you, is very interesting, and it also plays a very important role in our culture also, where the Hinduism and the Islam, they combine together, but none of them kind of talk about queer voices, although we have a rich history, but we often see that people do not really like to talk about such histories. So, this entire experience, I'm sure whatever you had was kind of mind boggling for you, because you also had to figure out a lot of things on the way. And so I'll come directly to my first question. So, since you are an intimacy curator, but intimacy isn't something that most people are taught or rather discussed also. So, we usually learn it through trial and error, or some, kind of pretty awkward heartbreaks that we have in our life. So, what was that light bulb moment in your life that made you realize that whatever we learned about intimacy, about sex, about building relationships for love, weren't working for you and the people around you?
Yeah, I think I had quite a few light bulb moments. I think one of the first ones was when I had a relationship with a woman in my like early 20s. Back then in the 80s, although I was actually no, the 90s, I was living in the UK, and it's a pretty open
Yeah.
kind of environment. There's been a rich queer scene for a while. It was pretty new to me. I was very kind of like, oh, so then I can actually like be attracted to other people as well, based on how I felt about them, right? Not
Yeah.
just because they had a certain thing in between their legs. Let's put it this way. And um, so obviously that was, I mean, this person was, or she identified as a lesbian. I was, of course, confused because I was kind of discovering myself, and that relationship ended because of that. And that's when I realized that there were boxes even in queerness that one had to follow, because back
Right.
then being pan or bi was not really spoken about at all. So we're talking about 90s. Then I mean, I left that relationship, and I followed the sort of heteronormative path, got married. And I think the next light bulb was when my husband cheated on me and he had an affair. And that's when I realized, like, oh, okay, even if you want to, follow the sort of path that everybody else follows or most people follow, that doesn't quite work. And why doesn't it work? Because perhaps he is attracted to other people besides this one particular person, right? So I mean, the first light bulb was heteronormativity. Okay, so the idea that uh, we are heterosexual and we are attracted to the opposite, a very binary idea. So that was what burst for me the first time. And then amatonormativity. So the fact that we are all meant to chase love and sex within one partner. Okay. And that would be, then there is an escalation. There is a romantic sexual relationship. It's only one with one person, ideally would last forever. And in between, there is like marriage, possibly, whatever. So that bubble got burst as well. That's the light bulb that again burst. So then I practiced polyamory for some time. that made me realize a lot of things, like how difficult it is to be in multiple relationships at the same time, and how there are certain skills that you really need to learn to be able to manage so many partners. The fact that you are not having sex at all, but you are actually managing so many emotions, and that's what you do most of the time,
And
right?
managing so many different lives altogether.
Yeah, yeah. So, and everybody's interconnected. So you can't have a job, I think, if you are poly. Like you have to just
That
like,
is your full-time job.
yeah, it is your full-time job. And then I think also like, figuring out that maybe sex or penetrative sex or any kind of genital sex was not really appealing to me. That was another revelation that came much later in life, because I had followed those scripts that, okay,
Yeah.
if I want to be intimate with someone, genitals need to be involved, or there needs to be an orgasm, there needs to be genital stimulation. So that also flipped, which is your allonormativity kind of bubble. And yeah, and then I experienced a DS relationship, a kinky relationship, and that also like made me realize that, okay, I'm not even into sex, but I'm more
Yeah.
into alternative forms of intimacy. So yeah, lots of
Wow.
light bulbs.
A lot of light bulbs, and mostly, what I can see from you is that you had experienced each of those moments,
Yeah.
and because of which you could take a stance. So I think it's a quick follow-up question, which I would also like to understand how you think is whether or not you kind of will give the advice to younger generation to actually experience and then decide for yourself, or choose first and then act.
Mm. Yeah, I think you will only know when you put yourself in that situation. Of course, there are certain things that you feel, within your body, like very visceral. Like if someone tells you, okay, can you eat, I don't know, sand, you will
Yeah.
have a very visceral reaction that no, absolutely I cannot. Like,
Right.
so certain things will be an absolute no. But I think what in today's world, what you require is a bit of open-mindedness. So not only for yourself, but so that you understand others, that there are other people who are into other things and express their emotions and their sexuality in other ways. So I think that's important, to be open-minded enough to say like, okay, maybe today right now I feel a certain way. I might be poly, but that doesn't mean that, in five years down the line, things will change and maybe you will have a monogamous relationship and you will be satisfied with it. So things do change also. Like,
Yeah, so I also personally align with your thought process, because human beings evolve and things change. Nothing is permanent. So, we try to fix, or kind of fall into a trap of fixing us in a certain box, but then it kind of breaks, and that also leads a mental breakdown in individuals, because suddenly when that bubble breaks, or when that box doesn't fit anymore, people feel they are not in control of their life. So that understanding of life is really very important, I feel. So yes, whatever you just said, it's very interesting to hear from your mouth, because you have experienced life for decades now, and you're working, whatever you are doing is really great. It's inspiring. So, coming to my next question is, people often hear intimacy coach, and they kind of think that it is either sex or kind of role models, right? But you say intimacy is a skill we practice like a muscle. So, what is this common lie about intimacy that is making the queer community feel lonelier? And why should we stop believing it today?
see, I think what happens is that when you identify as queer, you often forget that you're a person first, and then then queer is just an additional layer to you.
Right.
So an intimacy it's a core fundamental need, right? So um even like I find that often like even queer people follow these amatonormative structure, right? That they think that there is sex, there is love, and both of them need to be together, otherwise it's not fulfilling. And then it's with one person. So a lot of us, because we watch so many movies that keep on feeding into this narrative, we are always looking for the one, and the one should be someone who just falls from the sky, maybe not on a rainy day, uh, and we feel this spontaneous love, and we feel this spontaneous attraction, and everything needs to be perfect. But
True.
actually, intimacy is something that you can build, and it's made of various elements. So one of them is definitely vulnerability, being able to share how you feel, the fact that you do feel lonely. Because if you go into a room and tell people that you feel lonely, of course, human nature is to it's very collective. Somebody will come and talk to you,
Yeah.
right? They're not going to be like, oh, you're lonely, just be in the corner. Um, so I think definitely like communication is a big one. Uh, Understanding that it's not just about the binary of sex or no sex, like being a friend or being a romantic sexual partner.
Right.
You can have intimacy even in between these like binaries of sex and love, or sex and romance. Um, so also I find that often in the when you are queer, there's a lot of performance involved. It's almost like, because it's as a culture, it had to stand out and to they all feel stronger as opposed to a normative culture. So there is a lot of performative behaviors that happen within there, like especially like when you talk about like the gay community, it's always like, oh, gay people need to be sexual all the time, or they
Yeah.
need to be bitchy all the time, or they keep on cracking jokes about each other all the time, or
To wear flashy clothes and show skin all the time.
yeah, or it's like, oh, are you a bottom, are you a top? These, they're very cliched conversations,
Yes.
and they lead to performance, which means that if you're performing, how will you be vulnerable,
Reveal
and how will
yourself.
you
Yes.
build intimacy, right? The intimacy is about being like, okay, I'm not just queer, I am also like a person with certain interests, with certain feelings, with certain values. These are my needs. It's not that we all have the same need just because we're queer,
Correct.
right? So, yeah, I think communities also follow, because they have to. They follow their own set of rules. They follow certain hierarchies. They exist in a context as well. So, like in an Indian context, obviously, it will be different. In another cultural context, it will be different. There is a lot of division amongst the groups, you know. So,
Yes.
those are also elements that kind of work against the community. So it's good to be mindful of them. So yeah.
So, I mean, yes, however, you explained the whole thing so simply. I have faced some parts of it in my life too. So that's why this question was a little personal for me also to understand that what should I be doing next if I am in the same room with such kind of a people with such kind of a problem. So I also come from the gay community, and I often um, get submerged into these concepts and topics like top or bottom, or, lately I am also not dating anybody, and it has been for many years now. So I have lost interest in sex as much as I used to enjoy it before. So I'm still figuring out the reasons why,
Mm,
because it might be that I don't like a person to be only involved with me when it comes to sex, because when I'm looking at a person with intimacy, it goes a long way than just intercourse or physical contact. So it's also about how that person is supporting me emotionally, or whether that person is keeping in touch about my day-to-day journey and life.
Correct.
So that transaction that happens over dating apps or for a few minutes, I'm trying to slowly move out of those conversations and interactions. So my question, or the next question, would be that, queer friendships are often deeply intimate, but categorized strictly as quote unquote just friends, because you see that friends sleeping with each other. So in a close knit of people, almost everybody has slept with everybody. So it's the first contact that you sleep with the person, and then you decide that we can call us just friends. So how can your work help people honor those middle ground relationships, because those are also relationships that you deeply care about? How can you then continue that friendship, that are more than friendship but not necessarily traditional romance?
Yeah, but see, again, we are saying just friends as if friends is below romantic relationships. It's like it's not as good as
Right.
it's friends. Like there's nothing more to it. But actually, if we start decentralizing romance or romantic relationships, we realize that friendships last much longer.
Yeah.
So it's not that just friends. You say, oh, she, they are just my romantic partner, so they're not really worth anything. Because romance is very, it's very momentary.
Yes.
It is
I
momentary.
would say that it's almost a reaction to a certain circumstance, that you feel closer to somebody and the romance happens. But friendship goes beyond that.
Yeah. So friendships are usually the ones that last longer, the ones where you are accepting the other person with not so many expectations, although like there are expectations. So every relationship, like if we remove that whole romance umbrella into like them, like what is romance? You can even create that mood romance. You can create romance with your friends for one evening.
Yeah.
Let's do romance tonight and pretend that we are together in a romantic way, and then the following day you're back to square one. So again, like intimacy romance is also a skill.
Yeah.
Like you think that you've fallen for someone, but actually it's a slightly more complex than that, so. And romance does not really although if we are there's so many movies that we watch, but romance is not really something that will take you into a long term fulfilling and satisfying relationship. Those are other things, right? So the fact that you understand each other, you respect each other. Respect is much more important than romance, right? Having skills of when we fight, do we know how to make up, even as friends? Or if I fought with my friends, we're not going to speak to them ever again. Because
True.
those things happen as well, right? So you choose friends, it's a choice. And therefore, it takes a little bit of effort to also maintain those relationships. You need to understand what is the intention of that relationship. If someone is, there are many types of friends. You have those friends that you just go partying with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully everybody has has one or two friends that they're sharing their feelings with. And it's not just party friends, right? You have to start rethinking relationships in a slightly different way, right? Maybe I have a friend that I share like household things with, going grocery shopping, cooking together.
Yes. Chit
Eh,
chatting together, spending some foolish time together, watching the same movie that we are not, we are trying to defend here or not defend. So those kind of movies that we can watch together, or take a walk
Yeah,
together.
take a walk and talk about those things, right? What are my needs in this friendship? What are some boundaries? What if you cross that boundary? So how will I communicate with you?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm jealous of you. That's perfectly fine. But point is that we need to start rethinking because romance is part of the past now.
Right.
It's like it lasted for some time. It was never part of even marriages.
Yeah.
Marriages were something else, right? So you would get, even today, you get into an arranged marriage. Do you expect to feel romantically towards that person? No.
But their intention is clear that they want to make it work. And
They want to have kids, they want to build a family, right? Now, in a queer scenario, what is that? What is your intention?
we have to reimagine that, because we have diverse intentions when we are talking about queer romance and queer life as a whole. So I think what you are also trying to say, that we need to be clear about our own unique way of figuring out those bonds and relations.
Yeah, we need to understand what is it that we can give and receive from that relationship. Like, if you are trying to build a family because your family has not accepted you,
Yeah.
right? So you are rebuilding a family. What are the components to building a family? That it's not a family you were born with, but it's choice. You will have to be nice to each other as well. It's not just about being able to be free to be who we are and act like, uh like, just doing things that might offend people, and they should be okay with it. But it's also about being nice to each other, right? Otherwise, there is no guarantee that person is going to stay as a friend. They will walk away.
Yeah. And I mean, before moving to the next question, there's another quick follow-up question. Thank you for putting these interesting points. So in a relationship, whether it's a friendly one, romantic one, we often talk about compromise. So, what are your takes on it? Like, can you share a little bit more about the reciprocity in every relationship, and what should that journey of compromise look like in a successful relationship?
um I mean, more than compromise, it's a negotiation. Okay, so you are negotiating um between needs, right? You are negotiating your boundaries. Okay, so I might, if I feel the need to be physical with you, like, and I'm not saying sexual, but if I need cuddles, yeah, and that's a strong need of mine, because I might feel lonely at night, or might I want to do a sleepover, and I really need someone to cuddle me at night because it makes me feel loved. And right now I'm feeling lonely. I don't have a relationship, etc., etc. Um, can you? Are you able to have that conversation with a friend?
That's a negotiation.
It's a negotiation. If the friend says like, "No, I can't do this," okay, like I cannot be cuddling with someone who I don't have a romantic partnership with, right? So, because you have a need for touch, so the negotiation would be like, are you okay holding hands, for example?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This question
Uh,
sometimes come. Can we hold each other's hands in public and walk?
Instead,
Yeah.
okay. So obviously now the boundary of the other person is like, no, I am not okay with any physical touch. Then that's the end. It's not about compromising. If it's a strict no for them, then you have to respect it, right? But it can be negotiated as well. So what are you okay doing? Are you okay just like hanging out with me? Maybe you're okay lying down on the sofa while I sleep on the bed. That's a negotiation.
Wow, interesting. No, I mean, these are the things that most people do not talk about it, and that silence kind of gives too much stress in that communication and the whole process of building that.
Because a lot of people are worried about the no. What if they say no? But actually that no for you, it's an opportunity to ask for something else. So if this is no, then what is a yes? I mean, if everything is a no, then it's okay. I will have another friend.
Yeah, right. But that journey itself is kind of a test, or kind of a check box also. that, okay, fine, if this doesn't work, then what works? If that doesn't work, then what works? And you kind of measure how far you can deal with it. And if it's too much for you, then you can renegotiate your own decisions and choices and talk about it with the person to move on to another friend. I think that's what is a perfect journey
Yeah.
looks like, but in practice, it's often messy.
Of course, very messy. Always messy. Like it's not as straightforward. But there are some like guidelines to navigate this. And I think like what people are not very comfortable with is to experience certain emotions, like the feeling of rejection or sadness, etc. But we need to be a bit more comfortable with the feelings because it's fine. Like that is part of human nature. Like you cannot be always happy. That's an illusion.
Yes. Thank you for giving this last statement again because it connects to the both question that I was supposed to ask. But before I ask that question, I would also like to say that yes, the whole world thought myself to be a very strong individual who would outperform each time if given a task, who is never late. And, after a point of time, I felt saturated when people for the first time heard that, I'm going through a phase of depression and I do not want to work for quite some time. I want to take some time off for myself. Suddenly, everybody disappeared from the room and, they were like, you are just joking. You are making things up. You have become lazy. Yeah, there were comments like, you have failed me. And these people I have worked with for so many years. I think that was the first time when I actually sat down with my therapist to really understand that, I have to kind of move out from these kind of relationships because it has always been a one-sided one. So I was giving them what they needed each and every time. So they never saw me fail. And since they never saw me fail, they expected that I don't have any problems of my own, or I don't have any demons of my own. So that's also the next question, that for many queer people, the body can be a place of trauma or dysphoria. Using the somatic method, how do you help clients safely connect with their bodies to experience pleasure, pain, and whatever the emotional part or closeness without feeling overwhelmed about
Mm. So overwhelmed you will feel.
it?
That's that's okay. So overwhelm is part of the exercise is part of our experience, right? Now,
Lovely
how
answer.
you you will feel overwhelmed. That's okay.
Nice.
The whole idea is about feeling the overwhelm for some time. And I mean, obviously, somatic exercises are about helping you navigate that. Okay, navigate the overwhelm. It's not gonna overwhelm, especially if you have trauma. Um, you will keep on feeling overwhelmed. It's just that the overwhelm will be less impactful. You will know that it's gonna last for a certain time. You will know what the triggers will be, and you navigate those circumstances and deal with the overwhelm, right? What somatic exercises do is that they make you stay in the present, mostly through breathing exercises to sensations in your body. Focus on sensations, especially with pleasure, dysmorphia. Sometimes we go into our heads. So somatic exercises are great to be in the present and be in the moment right now. So if I feel a tingling sensation in my chest, let's just focus on that. And let's not focus on the narratives that my head gives around us, that tingling. Oh my God, am I having a heart attack? Or like, why am I like this? Why do I get overwhelmed all the time? I shouldn't be getting overwhelmed. So these are all thoughts. But if we just stick to the sensation, the tingling in your chest, or the pressure in your head, or the heat on your face, it takes a few minutes and you will feel better because you have allowed yourself to experience that sensation, that emotion without attaching any meaning to it. Yeah, your body will keep on reacting to things, right? Your body will experience feelings. Feelings are perfectly fine. They are our support system. If we don't know what we feel, we just become robotic, right? So we need to feel. We need to learn how to slow down everything, especially with pleasure. Slowing down is key. And how do you slow down? With breathing. So you breathe, take deep breaths, and you focus on the sensations. And that's when you'll be able to explore pleasure. And point is, whatever dysmorphia you have, whatever trauma you have, it takes time. It takes patience, repetition. So all these things is not that you do it once and your problem is solved. It's not like a tablet, right? It's not like a magic wand that, okay, now here, I'll give you magic and it's sorted. It's not Swiggy. It's not Blinkit. We are human, we are a species that takes time to actually learn things and are not supposed to be immediately fast and reacting to like either an emotion or arousal. We are not supposed to be like touched like this and be horny or experience pleasure. It takes time. You need to give your body time, and the body will tell then your feelings and your mind where you are, right? um like like with everything, it's when you do any kind of physical work, when you do for example, if you're cooking or if you are doing any sports activities, you do it with your body, right? You move your body and you do stuff. So no matter how much I explain this to you on a video call, or no matter how many reels you watch about it, no matter how many times you hear the same song again and again or read about it, it's not gonna, like, you won't be able to do that exercise until you're doing it with your body. Like,
Right.
me talking about fitness is not gonna make you fit. You will have to actually go to the gym and
You
run,
have
lift
to
weights.
practice that.
You have to move your body. You have to use your body to experience pleasure. Reading about it, talking about it is not going to do anything. So you need hands-on experience to do that. And I think that's what somatic work does. It's like you exist in the present with your body and you do things.
Wow. My key takeaways from what you just now shared is that overwhelm feeling has to be there in someone's life, but then semantic methods kind of help you regulate that feeling to try and understand where that overwhelming sensation is coming from without engaging it with the provocative thought process that often comes along.
Yeah, you're not extending it. You're just dealing with it right there and then.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So, next question is, in a world that often hypersexualizes queer bodies, I think we already talked about it, or rather, you mentioned about it very briefly. How do we practice slow intimacy? Like, what are those goals that we need to teach ourselves or remind ourselves, or non-sexual touch to build trust before, or even instead of jumping into sex?
Mm. So I think there is a method called sensate focus, which is used by a lot of sex therapists. It's used mostly for couples who stopped having sex, okay? And they've not had sex for years or months, whatever. It's like the right number for you.
That is up to them, case to case differ.
Yeah. For them, for some people, 10 years without having sex is nothing. For some of us, it's like, oh my God, how can you be without like
Yeah.
sex for 10 years, right? So how this method works is that you stay off genitals and sex for a number of sessions, and you just focus on touch. So and how you do it is like you take turns. So first one person receives and the other one gives, and then you swap, usually between half an hour to 1 hour.
Okay.
So imagine um slow intimacy. Now this can be also like you're going on your first date with someone and you end up being intimate, ideally you would want to say like, okay, is it okay if we don't have sex? Is it okay? Or you say like, I'm not really into sex, I just want to get to know your body better,
Yeah.
and I want you to get to know my body
No,
better.
my
So
God.
is it okay? Yeah. So is it okay if we just like touch? And you stay completely off genitals, you stay completely off, bum and breasts and all things that we used to have sex. Um, so you instead focus on receiving and giving, with the receiver giving feedback, with the giver asking questions. How is this feeling? Where do you want it? Which body part is not okay? Which body part would you like me to focus on? What kind of pressure? What kind of speed? What kind of texture, temperature you experience with your hands? Of course, the touching can happen with your hands, but can happen with other body parts as well,
Yes.
right? You can even rub one body part with the other body part. That's perfectly fine. Ultimately, you are just playing, right? So, physical intimacy is the way adults play.
Yeah.
Just because we are not kids anymore, that doesn't mean that play is not important to us, right? So, play is what makes us feel alive, creative, right? Joyful. So these are all good things that will help us in general. Now, that play can be dancing. It's usually something that you do with your body. It could be like ceramics, something that you do with your body that gives you joy. Now, physical intimacy is that, it's play. So the way you are exploring the body can be playful or should be playful, right? Also, what you can do is focus on role play, and role play doesn't have to lead to sex. So kids use role play all the time, right? They pretend that they are
Yes.
something, like a thief or a cop or a mother or whatever, like
What?
many different roles. So you can do that is even as grown-ups, and that's part of play, right? That's why a lot of sex therapists emphasize on role play, and you read it on a lot of blogs as well, right? That you use role play to to spice up your sex life and stuff. But you can also focus just on role play when you are thinking about slow intimacy.
Hmm.
Okay, maybe we just role play strangers at the bar.
Yeah.
It's funny. It will make you laugh. It will make you aroused. That doesn't mean that you have to have sex.
That doesn't mean that you will act on that particular.
Correct. Yeah. So being able to hold pleasure in your body, or being able to hold arousal without having to act and have an orgasm, or fuck or whatever, like, you don't have to. You can just feel that good feeling, that sensation of arousal, pleasure in your body, and be playful with it. Allow it to
True.
just be there, right?
True.
Was that good
That was
enough?
that was excellent. As in, because uh, you see that whenever we think about kids, so they come up with crazy ideas during the role plays. They imagine a lot of things which might not even happen in the real life, and that is where we tell them that kids should do that, because that generates a lot of curiosity to know more about it, to understand themselves and the world around them. So then when you brought this concept of play and learn, so this also, now for me, I always used to think that kids are supposed to do that. But right now, through your and our conversation, I kind of get it that it's equally important for us to play, because if we don't play, we are stuck. We are stuck in the same emotional loop, which might be very stressful for us, like work, like playing the role of a parent, etc., etc. So that moves to the next question, because you have mentioned that curiosity is more important than the spark. So in the world of high speed dating apps, which I was also referring to before, like Grinder, Tinder, and so on, How can queer folks pivot from the interview style dating? Like in India, people will ask, "What is your ASL?" Like age, sex, and location. So that's the first question that people on Grinder ask, and the next question is PIC, that is a picture, and then the third question is, "Do you have place?" So and the conversation ends right there. So there is nothing more to it. Either you
That
like
sounds like a grinder conversation to me more than any.
Yes, sounds like a grinder conversation. And that's particularly why I am off grinder for many years now, because I'm not curious by what comes next. I don't want to see a dick picture without a face. Uh, and so, what is your curious style of connecting that you would explore yourself and probably you would want others to also try?
Yeah, see, the thing is that again, like the platform is grinder, so people are there to just have casual sex. Now, if you are on grinder to not have casual sex and you're looking for connections, then I'm not sure if you're on the right platform. You know, you might have to change the platform. If that happens on a Hinge, Bumble, or whatever other dating app, then obviously there are ways of staying off, not the app, but off those conversations. Be upfront about what you're looking for. What is your intention? If I'm not looking for, I might be queer, but I'm not looking for sex. Okay. So I'm looking for emotional connection.
Yeah.
So that will anyways keep off people who are into casual meetup. So if they message, obviously you ignore them. But in terms of so these are questions that usually lead to a casual sexual experience. But if you need to be curious about someone, you need to understand what you want to understand, why they do the things they do. So a lot of times people will ask, like, what do you do? That's not, yeah, sure. I don't know, like I'm a driver. But why are you a driver? What made you choose this? We want to know why people wake up in the morning. That's interesting. Like what drives them? What motivates them? And if there's
What
nothing that motivates,
choices in life?
yeah. If there's nothing that motivates them, why is that? Are they going through something? So you want to talk about emotions.
Nice.
How is
Beautiful.
it that, yeah, how are they feeling and why are they feeling like that?
Yeah.
Right? Um, it's also like sometimes you can, like, if you want to, because, open-ended question asking why, what, usually
How?
leads to, yeah, how leads to better conversations, right? But also using mirroring techniques. I mean, you are interviewing me, right? So you said how, and then I'm explaining how, right? So you just have to listen, have quiet moments, repeat what the other person says, like in a short sentence. They will talk even more and more and more because you want to know more about them,
Yes.
right? Why they think the way they do. Because when you're looking for a compatible person, you're looking at aligned values, right? So how do you find out somebody's values?
By probing questions.
Yeah, you will need to ask questions that are slightly deeper. What do you believe in? What is your motto in life? If someone says like #1life, that tells you a lot, right?
Right.
#grinder,
That
that
tells
tells
it a
you a
lot
lot.
of me.
Exactly. Um, so yeah, like listening and then understanding why is it that they do the things they do. I think that's a key sort of ingredient for curiosity.
Wow. Beautiful. So talking to you, it feels like, you have mastered the art of intimacy. It's also because maybe you had
It's not an art. It's not an art. It's a skill.
skill,
It's
but
a
you have
skill.
Yeah, you have learned that and honed that skill. I think that's the correct way to put it.
Practice, 5 decades of practice.
5 decades of practice. And the last question that I have for you is, probably we can continue the conversation, but this is the final question that comes to my mind, is that queer relationships often involve navigating kink, polyamory, or non traditional boundaries. Like, you also have experienced all of them in phases. What is one intimacy tool you wish every queer couple for constellation, for couple or constellation had in their toolkit for discussing taboo desires? Because these kinks, we often like to not bring these topics up in public or not even discuss with the partner. And oftentimes, in my personal experience, that has led to disasters. When you are playing
Be-
with
Yeah.
they are disasters, because I clearly, it's a very funny incident of a dom and a slave experience which I had. And I was like, hey, hold on. What are your safe words? Because I really need to understand how far we can take this and in what ways, because I always work with consent. And that guy was like, we'll figure it out in the process. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this because it is going to leave us both with an unsatisfied experience, and that is going to trouble us for the rest of our lives, because we will never like to experiment anymore. So I'm not going to do this. And so this question is about um, answering that kink side of me as well, that what is the correct way to go with it.
No, I mean, what you're doing is great. Unfortunately, it depends on at what stage you are. Now, if it's someone that you've never met before, yeah, you have to normalize having these conversations. And what you're doing is right. Like, you have to normalize it, because if you end up having a relationship with them and you don't know what their desires are, you'll end up, I don't know, moving in with someone and then suddenly they say, "Oh, but I just want to have orgies." I mean,
Yes.
in a queer scenario, it's probably not going to happen because of what we
Yes.
discussed before. Sex is always at the front.
Yes.
Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know, but it has like its own pros and cons. Like, sex is always at the front. So sexual conversations do happen. Luckily, heterosexual couples are doomed for life.
Doomed. They never
Doomed.
talk about it. They only
No.
find out when the other person is cheating.
Yeah, or like after they've had 15 kids. And
Yes,
then they have
that
to
is
like,
very complicated. And then it's a trauma for the whole family, because
yeah,
eventually everybody figures it out.
yeah,
And that's a lot of things to process, from money to resources to
correct.
emotions, legal things. Everything
Yes.
comes into the picture.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have that perfect example of someone, they might be a queer and then they get married, and they always had this kind of not sure if I am, but obviously the moment that question mark comes in your head, then you are.
Uh,
Right? So, and then they get married and then they end up living these parallel lives. They live parallel lives, right?
They live
But
parallel lives, and I think living parallel lives are very tough. It's very challenging, demanding. Again, same reasons, because there are so many people involved. I have
yeah,
been seeing lately these, there were some uncles whom I used to adore. And when I grew up and things happened, and now I see them in a different light, because it's not only them. I mean, I don't disrespect them. I actually like the fact that some of them are discussing it with their partners, but then at what cost is the question.
yeah, yeah. It's tough. But I think, like, yeah, again, like, it depends on where you are. Like, ideally we need to normalize these conversations. Like, we talk about food, like, you like Chinese, I like Italian, okay, fine. A lot of times it's it's okay to introduce these topics via films. Oh, I like this film. Let's watch it together. I like this thing in the film that they're doing. What do you think about it? So more than finding a compatible person who's exactly into what you are, it's more about finding someone who's open-minded about things and who's willing to communicate about things. Movies about the topic is great. Sharing letters, writing letters of desires is also great. But when people share, it's also important that they start with an appreciation of what they already like about things that they're doing, so that it doesn't come across as a complaint when you are sharing some desire. Also, sometimes people want to open up the relationship. They are already in the relationship and they figure out something. That's also possible, right? So if that's the case, you start thinking about, oh, I've been feeling a certain way. I'm not going to act upon it, or I have not acted upon it, but this is how I feel. Now, how do we, like, let's have this conversation. Sometimes it's important. In fact, it's very important. Now, with this example that you gave, the person who wanted to take it with the flow, oh, let's figure it out how it goes. Sometimes it's important to just understand how is it that the sexual experience, what is it that it makes them feel? Because maybe this person wants to feel wild.
Yeah.
Like, if you know that this person wants to feel wild and adventurous and free, you can have that conversation like, okay, what do you want the mood to feel like when we have sex? And if they say like, oh, I want it to go with the flow, at least it gives you a sense. That doesn't mean that you need to follow what that person is. In your case, great. You want to talk about definitely safe words, especially if you're engaging in activity. Actually, safe words should be used for any activity. They've been restricted for kink, right? But
Yeah.
even when you are in a relationship and you're living with someone, sometimes there are certain topics that you don't want to hear, or there are certain words that you don't want to hear. So you can use a safe word. Like, maybe I don't like my partner gossiping about the neighbor, and I can say pineapple because it's crossing my limits. Like, I'm not, instead of being critical, it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you touching me here? Or why are you being so rough? Or why are you not doing things the way I want? You can just say pineapple. So it's a more delicate way of saying,
Coming to a term that is understood by both of the people. And I think in bedroom or in relationships, it's more important to have these safe words in place, because you might be in a situation where others are also involved. Say, for example, you are doing a three-way or a threesome for the first time, and
yeah,
something that you are not liking your partner to be engaging in. So, how then do you communicate that particular fact without also insulting and with dignity being
yeah,
retained for the third person? Because that person is not at fault. He or she has been involved because of both of you. So you all three have decided to take that action together. So those
yeah.
safe words kind of saves those momentarily heated arguments, um, and it can drive you to a much more cleaner expression outlet.
Yeah, and it makes it playful, right? That's the whole idea. You're doing this for some sense of fun, joy, creativity, connection. Yeah. So, like, make it as light as you can, um, without offending anyone. So definitely, like, safe words, or like understanding somebody's limits. Are they okay? What are they okay with? What are they not okay with? Like, your whole, some body parts they might not be okay with, right? That needs to be discussed. Because if you don't discuss it, then it just kills the entire experience, right? So even medical conditions, like, let's say that if someone is on some medication and then suddenly have a heart attack while you're doing stuff, then how are you going to deal with it? At least you know that this person might. So you are preventing, or like, at least you are aware of the risk. The moment you are aware of the risk, you can take a more informed choice. You can give
Decision.
informed
And
consent. Yeah.
True. You know how to handle the situation better.
Yeah.
Okay, Aili, thank you so much for the conversation. I think I knew some parts of it, but coming from your mouth, it kind of reinforced my belief in open and clear communication, not just in a professional manner, but it is equally important in our personal lives.
Yeah.
So that is what my whole take is. Um, Thank you so much for agreeing to do this today and within a short notice. And hopefully, we can continue this collaboration together
Sure.
for years to come.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely questions. Really, like really thought through. Very, it's like very nice to hear good questions. Usually in podcasts, they ask the same questions again and again.
No, we just
Thank you
wanted
so much.
to explore a little depth in these questions. That's it.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you so much.